Welcome to today's episode of Sassy Detectives. We're your hosts, Tori
and Rae.
We're here to talk about anything and everything Nancy Drew. And today, for a Halloween special, we will be ranking the Nancy Drew games based on spookiness. Roll the intro. Okay, so happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween!
We are so happy to be with you here today. And what we have is a tier list that we are looking at. And we're going to go through each game and we're going to discuss where it should fall on said tier list. And then we've also asked you guys on our Instagrams for... Why did I say that as a plural? We've asked you guys on our Instagram for your most memorable... Wow, talking is hard. Your most memorable spooks. And so we will go through those as well. We have those at our fingertips. So thank you for responding to our question sticker. All right, yes, Rae, you want to kick us off? What are we talking about first?
All right, so I've got my phone up the screenshots of the Instagram stuff, but first we're going to rank the games, and our first game we will be ranking is Secret of the Scarlet Hand.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts on that?
So I think Secret of the Scarlet Hand is a really balanced game in regards to spooky. It's like, it's not all spooky, and a lot of people... So Secret of Scarlet Hand is actually my favorite game of like what I consider to be like the first generation. Like in my mind, I always break Nancy Drew games up by generations depending on their UI. So like, the old teal like screen with like the text box in the bottom left and the inventory box in the bottom right. Every game that has like that interface, I consider the first generation or whatever first era of Nancy Drew, and Secret of Scarlet Hand is my favorite one out of that. But I feel like a lot of people kind of gloss over it, and that's fine. I know it's not the same style of Nancy Drew game that a lot of people tend to gravitate toward. Yeah. But I like Scarlet Hand because I think it is a very balanced game. And while I find a lot of the like music and like the temple itself to be very spooky, and then there are a couple like story moments that are spooky, I don't think the whole game feels that way.
Yeah. For me, like certain parts of the museum, like at night, give off that kind of spooky vibe, and the temple, but especially the endgame part. We're probably going to have to put on spoilers for every single game in this episode, aren't we?
Maybe.
Because there is a scene at the end that is extremely spooky, and it also kind of, for me, foreshadows a certain other game that's going to come out in 2011, where it also involves Lonnie Manella and a corpse, but we'll get to that another day.
Okay, then maybe we should just go ahead and say for safety, like if there is a game that you have not played, please proceed with caution, because we may be talking about how games connect to other games. So if there is a game in the series you have not yet played and you are worried or you do not want to be spoiled as for potential plot or ending situations, maybe skip this episode and come back to it. But
just take a day, play all of the games at once, and then come back.
Yeah, just quit your job and play Nancy Drew full time.
Yeah. Who cares about sleep? All we care about is Nancy Drew.
Correct. Nancy Drew is life, so...
I can just tell that we're going to have a lot to agree about with Secret of the Scarlet Hand, but, so this one, a little spooky? Does that sound...
Yeah, I think like this is I think mid-tier, a little Oh, let me read
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah,
tiers
I
out to
forgot.
everybody. So
Yeah, we've got
the
a tier
top
list here.
tier is Scared for My Life. So that's kind of like the spookiest of the spooky. And then we
Mm-hmm.
have Gave Me Such a Fright. So it's like
Yeah.
pretty spooky, but not like terrifying. Then you have like the
I
middle
based it
tier.
off of Yeah, I based the second tier off of the scene where Nancy comes out of the corridor in out of the East Wing, I think. Was it East Wing? But it's one of the wings in Curse of Blackmore Manor, and she runs into Ethel, and Ethel's like, "Oh, you gave me such a fright." So,
And then the third and middle tier is A Little Spooky, which is where we're putting Scarlet Hand. And then the fourth tier is Scary but not spooky. So like we're games that maybe don't only have like a couple moments that are, I don't know, tense or spooky. And then the bottom tier is Where is the Spooky? So those are games that are like not really spooky at all.
yeah. So I think so we're putting Secret of Scarlet Hand right there in the middle, because while it's not like super spooky, it's still got a little bit of spook. It's still a little spooky.
Yeah.
All right. So the next thing on our list is the original Secrets Can Kill.
Okay.
And that one for me, um, I find it kind of scary, but I don't find it spooky. It's too high school for me. You know what I mean? Like,
10-year-old
it just
me.
brings back, it just reminds me of high school, which is not great, but it's not spooky.
Yeah, 10-year-old me was so scared by the ending of the original Secrets Can Kill that I didn't touch another Nancy Drew game. I talked about that in the first episode, so if you haven't listened to that and you want to hear
Yeah.
my Nancy Drew history, you can
I
go back and
mean,
listen.
yeah, the whole murder part, yeah,
Yeah.
that's scary, but I don't really think it's like spooky.
Yeah. So if we're going by like Halloween spookiness, I don't think this
Yeah,
necessarily fits. So I would put it under scary but not spooky.
scary, yeah. Ooh, ah, okay. There we go. All right, now we have the remastered Secrets Can Kill, and I think we'll
Honestly,
put that one in same place.
yeah, me too. I was going to say it's kind of the same for me. The ending, I
They
think, of
didn't
the
change that
remaster
much.
is less scary. But
I also think it's better plot wise because you actually can find out who the culprit is, other
yeah, I think it,
than like the
it,
last minute being like, "Hey, this is the culprit, by the way," and it's somebody
right.
you've
I think
never
the
met.
ending is a lot more logical in the remaster. Um,
Yeah,
but I
less
do think
scary, but it's still scary.
one thing I do think, and again, this is spoilers, but one thing I did like about the original Secrets Can Kill is the
Hmm.
inclusion of all the characters to kind of like, or not all of them, but the inclusion of most of your characters to kind of try to help Nancy at the end. I appreciated that. That
Yeah,
doesn't really
that was
happen in the
cool.
remaster.
Yeah. The next one on our list is The Creature of Kapu Cave. Um,
Um, oh.
this one, um, I don't really think it has that many spooky vibes, but like we do get Kane Okala for like one scene. Wait, is that
Yeah,
his
but
name?
you find out that Kane
Kane
Okala is literally
Okala.
just Dr. Craven with itchy skin, and the
Yes.
whispering is the frittulated flag beetles.
Yeah, so
And
it's
it's
not really
like,
that spooky.
yeah, I don't know. For me, I feel like Creature of Kapu Cave is one of the least spooky games in the entire series.
Yeah.
Even I feel like even when you're in Kapu Cave, it's really more mysterious than it is spooky. I would put it in the
Hmm.
bottom. I would put it in Where is the Spooky,
Yeah.
but if you disagree with me, we can compromise.
Yeah. All right, so next we have The Phantom of Venice.
Okay.
Now, for me, like, um, it already kind of gives off Halloween vibes because
Mhm.
you can go to the costume store and wear literally whatever you want, but that alone is not enough to make it spooky. But for me, what does make it spooky, um, is like it does always feel like you're being watched, and then you have like the sewers that you have to go through, and those
Mhm.
are creepy and stuff. And then you also have that one that takes place at night when everybody's doing like the carnivale stuff. So
I think that Phantom of Venice is kind of spooky.
the
The
heel.
scene where Nico Petite comes in and steals
Yes,
your locket.
yes, yes. Yes. He just
Yeah,
comes in and grabs it, do this
Yeah,
masked
that's
figure.
a classic scene, and I think
Have, uh,
it
Helena.
is kind of frightening.
Especially to Helena, who is in a face mask and
Yeah.
walks out and starts screaming bloody murder.
I also agree.
Scene is iconic.
Yeah. I also agree with what you said about it kind of feeling like you're being watched. I also think that there's a level of spookiness to the tension of everything involving Enrico. So like
Mm-hmm. Oh
pretending
yeah,
to
for
be
sure.
Samantha Quick, knowing that you could potentially get caught by this man and be proven to not be Samantha Quick, and then like also
Oh
stealing
yeah,
the sapphire, I think is pretty spooky. And
yeah, and just the use of masks in general
mhm,
in this game,
mhm.
very very Halloweeny spooky. Like, oh, you don't know who I am? Hoo hoo hoo! I'm wearing a mask. Hoo hoo hoo! We are climbing on rooftops in a mask. Hee hee hee.
I also think the beginning, like how the game opens, which is it's kind of like a flash forward, where
I
you
love that
see,
opening so much.
yeah, like where you're trapped in the tunnels and the water starts filling up at the very beginning. And I think it gives a sense of spookiness because you don't know like what this means and you have no context for it. And then you see it come to pass as toward the end of the game. So for me, I might put it in like gave me such a fright. What do you think?
There, let's put it there. That's a good place for it.
Okay.
Ah, there we go. Gave
Plus,
me
I think
such
it has one of the
fright.
spookiest covers.
It does! It's literally a masked thief. It's called the Phantom of Venice. What is
Mm-hmm.
spookier than the title Phantom, okay? That is fun. That is a fun one. Alright, so the next one is Trail of the Twister. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and say, where is the spooky?
Yeah.
Like,
I
there is that one scene in the tornado, but literally everybody can tell that it's Scott because who else here has that hair and that beard? So, like, it's not even spooky. It's just like, what is Scott doing at the coffee table?
Right. I would agree with you. Trail of the Twister is actually a game that I think does not get enough love, and it's a game that I love a lot. But do I think it's spooky? No, I don't think it's spooky.
Yeah, you and I have the same opinion on this game. It's a nice. It is a comfy game, but is it spooky? Will it give me a fright? No. All right. Next we have Treasure in the Royal Tower.
Okay. I think this game is pretty spooky.
Ooh.
You're trapped in the castle. There are weird noises that you hear at night. Professor Hotchkiss is a really mysterious and almost suspicious character until you meet her, and the only time you ever get to see her face to face is in the middle of the night. That's pretty spooky. And the entire like basement floor is
Mm-hmm.
spooky, I think.
The
And
dungeon kind of area. Yeah.
yeah, and then like crawling around elevator shafts and vents is spooky.
And the
And
library itself is spooky.
yeah, and it has a secret room, which is spooky. And there's dead ends
Also,
everywhere in the castle. Spooky.
and that
I could go
one,
on.
yeah, and that one cell in the dungeon that just kind of has like that random figure of a person sitting
I
there.
know.
I have
Yeah.
no idea why that is there, but it freaked me out so much as a kid.
And like the
So,
base of the Queen's Tower,
yeah,
like where you have to do the
mhm.
little
It's spooky,
that's
but
spooky.
I don't think it's spooky enough to be in scared for my life.
No, me either.
But it definitely gave me such a fright.
I agree.
Because
I
what
would
is
put
that
it in gave me
figure up
such a
there
fright.
doing? What is that figure in the? I don't know what it's doing. All right, so our next one is Warnings at Waverly Academy. Now this one automatically Edgar Allan Poe. It's spooky. Okay, we have a mystery that has it's involved with Edgar Allan Poe. Like that's an automatically okay. We've got Edgar here. It's gonna be a little spooky.
Yeah.
But I also think like the whole inclusion of like the black cat, like that's like bad luck, spookiness. There's that, and also the music participates in the spookiness as well.
I
And
agree.
the secret
Um
society cult aspect as well.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games that is almost opposite of Secrets Can Kill for me. Like I don't think this game is very scary, but I do think that it is like spooky, the
Vibes.
fall
Yeah.
vibes. It's very Halloweeny, kind of ominous. There's a lot of like mystery and like question kind of vibes to it.
Uh-huh.
So it's I think it's spooky but not scary. So I'm kind of between like a little spooky and gave me such a fright. I don't know, you can choose
Mhm.
between the two.
Yeah, I'll put it gave me such a fright because Paige, the RA, exists,
True.
and hiding from her gives me a heart attack.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. So the next one is Secret of the Old Clock. And before any of you say that it isn't spooky, the tunnels.
I think Secret of the Old Clock is actually really spooky in a few different ways.
I'm talking to
Um,
the listeners because I know there are going to be some of them who are like, Secret of the Old Clock isn't spooky. There's jazz and colorful stuff and pies. Uh-uh. Uh-uh. Everybody, the tunnels freaked me out as a child. I had a nightmare about the tunnels as a child. Those tunnels, peak spooky, okay?
Yeah, I think the tunnels are spooky, and also not even just the tunnels themselves, but like if you think about the intended purpose behind the tunnels, that's really spooky. And the fact that
Mhm.
somebody has been like watching Emily through the painting in her room is really unsettling.
Yeah.
And um and
And
then
you always feel like you're being followed in the tunnels because you could always hear like footsteps there, and like the
mhm.
music
Plus
changes and you can hear like the drafts of wind and stuff, and it's like that is spooky. Okay, maybe nothing else in the game is spooky, but that right there, that is spooky.
the scene where if you get caught in Richard Topham's house, that is spooky.
Sorry, I'm just imagining the clip of when you get caught and he has his hands down, there's like a light glowing on him and he's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing in my floor?
It's a little campy, but when I was younger, it spooked
It's so
me.
much fun. It is spooky. Like, maybe the rest of the game kind of like goes off with that, but I'd also say that the little, what is it, like the barn thingy, the
Yeah,
shed
like
or
the
something.
carriage house or
That
whatever it is.
place, yeah, that place. That's also kind of spooky. So I would say this one is definitely spooky, but not quite scared for my life. So where would we put it?
I'm okay putting it in a little spooky. I think that it's kind of another balanced game like Scarlet Hand.
It's a good one. Next is Curse of Blackmore Manor, and I already know where I'm putting that
I
one.
already know where I'm putting it too. Are we going to agree? Scared for my life is where I'd put it.
Yes. I think combined with the whole werewolf aspect, the opening of the game, all the nightmares you can have, the fact that it's like you're locked in this manor, there's so many secret passageways, there's such a hidden history behind everything. There's like a whole thing of like, is there something magical and legendary involved here? We don't know. And then the most important spook of this game, Ethel.
Ethel,
Um,
terrifying.
Terrifying.
Something I was trying to like think about this the other day, and a lot of Nancy Drew games have really like comforting things about them. And for me, what's weird is I do consider Blackmore Manor to be kind of like a comfort game for me. But as far as actually comforting aspects in that game, there are only two that I can think of. One is the conservatory. I think the conservatory has really lovely vibes.
There's also a plant that might eat you.
Right,
So like,
but if you don't click on it, then you're fine.
yeah. Don't
And
get near the
then,
plant, you're fine.
yeah. And then the other thing is the music. I think the music is really lovely, and
But
gives
the
really good
music is
vibes.
also
But everything else
um,
about that game is spooky.
it is. It like as you said, like the music can give comforting vibes, and like I'd say that about like tracks like Memoir and what was it, like Renaissance or something. But then there's tracks like the track Dulcimer, which is like this track is ultimate spooky. Like this track it plays when you're in the passageways, and those passageways have the most spooky vibes ever. Like you have nothing but this glowing radioactive rock to light your way, and there's a bunch of like gargoyle stuff in there, and you never really know where anything is, and there's a bunch of different staircases and stuff.
I'll never
And then
forget the
there's
first time that I was going through the tunnels and I stumbled upon the suit of armor and I thought it
oh
was a
my
person.
gosh. Me too. Oh my gosh, I was so scared. I was like, "Why is there a person in here waiting for me?" And it's like, no, it's just a suit of armor. No need
Also,
to be scared. It's just a suit of armor.
yes, absolutely. Also, the peephole looking into Linda's room, and then you see her hand
Oh,
and it's all hairy. I was like,
it's like, what is going on here? And then the whole thing on the wall that's like where you have to put in the name of Eleanor, the one who was like innocent or something.
right.
Um, like that whole thing with like the curses and stuff. That's scary. Okay, and then also the chanting late at night. Like
Oh gosh.
that is
Yeah.
scary. Also, I do have that chanting as my ringtone on my phone, which can be a little weird to explain when it goes off in public because I forgot to put it on mute. This
Also, like the ritual
is
you see Ethel and Jane doing, like you're right. There's just so many
why
like spooky,
are
scary
they pouring
moments.
oil in the water? And the note with the death rune on it, and like the scratching at the door, and then you look and there's actual claw marks on your door, and then the hooded figure going down the going down the hallway. Like this game is so spooky,
I
like
used to
in the
like
best ways.
I used to mad click when I was in the tunnels because I just wanted to get through them because I was convinced that if I spent too much time in the tunnels that like something was going to come get me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a good one. So that one we instantly agreed. Scared for my life
Scared for my
because it
life for
is
sure.
very good. All right, so the next one we have is Danger by Design. And I'd say the only spooky part of this one is the catacombs.
Yeah,
But like even that, is it very spooky?
I didn't really think it was that spooky. Other than maybe like running from the catacomb police.
Yeah.
Um I just thought the catacombs were kind of like dirty. um I
Yeah,
don't
I just didn't
know.
want to touch anything.
I might
Yeah, there is a secret passageway in Dieter's apartment, which is kind of
yeah.
spooky. So I think I can put this in like a little spooky.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm fine
Yeah,
putting Danger by
it's like
Design in a little spooky.
yeah, because it's got a little bit of spooky in it.
And I do think some of the
Uh,
music can be kind of spooky.
the one where it's like do 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 do
Yep.
do 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 do. Yeah, that one. It's like that one's good, especially when it's like completely silent and then it starts playing that quietly, and I'm just like, that's a good vibe. I like it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, next one is Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon.
So,
I there's not a ton of like spooky stuff, even though there are ghosts involved. Because even like John Gray, the ghost dude, is like, that's not really like a ghost. It's this thing that we could explain as ghostly phenomenon and something. I'm like, okay. But then we have the crypt and the crypt keeper.
I like the
Now,
Crypt and the Crypt Keeper. I also think that the mine is kind of spooky.
oh yeah, especially when there's, the skeleton in there, which,
Mm-hmm.
if there's a skeleton involved, it's spooky. But yeah.
Maybe a
So
little
that one,
spooky?
yeah, I think it's a little spooky.
Okay.
All right, next one is Legend of the Crystal Skull. This one has some of the best spooky vibes
Yes.
ever. It is so good. Um I don't care what anybody says about this game. I love it. I love it so much. The spooky vibes are some of my favorite ever in these games. Like the music, like the jazz. Ah, the jazz. And then you have like the rain atmosphere. You have the whole like I'm stuck here. There's nowhere to get out. There's a cemetery. You get to walk on the cemetery. Um you have like the skeleton hand thing. You have the skeleton man. You have all these eyeballs. You have all these freaky stuff. And then there's the doll in Renee's room. Where you turn around, there's a thunderclap, and suddenly there's a creepy doll there staring at you.
Yeah.
That frightened me so much as a
Me too.
kid. I did not want to go back in her room for a long time, but I had to because of, plot stuff. But like, I was so scared. And then like the tunnel, the little secret passageway up to Bruno's attic, the dummy, like, and Bernie the alligator. Shout out to Bernie. We love Bernie. Um, and then there's the Jolly Roger crew scene where
That's what I
Bess
was
is
gonna say, the crew
hot,
meeting.
and it feels like they're gonna kill Bess or something, and I'm just like, oh my god. But this game for me is like one of the spookiest in
I
the series. It's just
I would
so good.
agree. And I think that one thing that the Legend of the Crystal Skull does really, really well is the pacing of all of those spooks is really nice. And
Mhm.
everything takes you by surprise without seeming like it doesn't make sense in the moment. So, like, the
Yeah.
moments where you're like in a dark room and then like the lightning strikes and everything lights up for a moment and you see the doll face,
Yes.
like that
Oh my
makes
gosh, it's so
logical
good.
sense, but it's still really
Oh,
spooky.
I forgot to mention literally everything in Zeke's curio shop.
Yes.
Like,
What
there's
is
the
that thing in the big,
I
like,
don't
water
know.
tube that's like a weird
There was this one Tumblr post. I can't find it. I've been looking for it everywhere that referred to it as a pickled cryptid, and so that is what I've called it ever since then
pickled
because it looks
cryptid?
like a
Okay.
pickled
I mean,
cryptid.
it does look like a pickled
Shout out
cryptid.
to whoever said that on Tumblr. I owe you my life. And then there's also like the mummy. They just have a mummy with the coffin that you can just open up.
Mm-hmm.
A mummy there. I don't know why. Um, and then there's like all the hoodoo stuff too, and it's just like this game is just like peak spooky.
It
Like
is.
ah, and the fact that it's all set at night in the rain. Cannot get better than that. It's just New Orleans at night in the rain with jazz in the background, and you're on a cemetery. Like peak spooky. And it does actually have scary moments. So for me, I would put it in scared for my life because of a lot of parts of it.
I'm good with that. I'm good putting it in
Yeah.
scared for my life.
Yeah. Just the way it opens, where it's a cutscene and you can't do anything, and suddenly this guy attacks you. Like, yeah. And then there's the whole Renee's like, here, drink this mysterious green liquid. And it's just like, I am not sure if I feel okay with drinking this random liquid, but it's just part of the game. All right, so the next one we have is the Nancy Drew Dossier, Lights, Camera, Curses. And this one, for me, it's a little spooky. I wouldn't say it's like supremely spooky
Yeah.
because it always for me was like, oh, I know that this is going to be a person behind it, but the whole thing with like the curse, um, then the whole like the black cat going everywhere. Wish is a cute little kitty cat. I forgot if it had a name or not, but I love that kitty cat. So shout out to the black cat from that game. It's cute.
As
But
a film
I'd
student,
say, mm-hmm.
I really appreciate all the film noir stuff that
uh,
goes like a lot with the cutscenes in the Lights Camera Curses. They do a lot of those kind of like film noir, kind of dark, shadowy cutscenes that are sketched, and
mhm.
I really, really appreciated that as like just kind of an added level of spookiness. I don't think it's very spooky in its like gameplay, but I do think a lot of the vibes are kind of spooky.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a little spooky. It's a little spooky.
yeah, so I'm good putting it in a little spooky.
Yeah. All right, so the next one we've got is a fan favorite for spookiness, Message in a Haunted Mansion. This
Okay.
was the first spooky game in the series, and I will say, while it didn't really scare me a lot when I played it, it mostly made me really confused because, like, I saw that. I definitely saw that. I'm not crazy. Um, because there are a lot of spooks like that in the game, like the swan head figurine on was it the chair or the table or something?
Uh-huh, in the
It's like
parlor.
swan head. Yeah, and it's like moving its head, and you look back at it, it's still, and I'm just like, no, I saw you moving. I saw you.
There's a lot of spooks, and then like when you're down in the saloon and you turn around to go up the stairs and the door slams, that scared me.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're walking up the main staircase, sometimes you hear somebody whisper, "I see you," and it was like really. I didn't like that. Sometimes when you're in
Yeah.
the upstairs hallway, you hear a woman crying, or you see the reflection in like the shadow in the mirror, in the hallway mirror.
See, when I always heard the person crying, I thought it was just somebody having a bad day, and I was like, I'm not gonna
Abby's
judge
just
you.
going through it.
Cry as Abby, have a nice day. Just cry as much as you want. You're fine. Um, so
Also,
that part never scared me. I was just like, yeah, somebody's just having a bad day.
really, I think this game is very spooky, and I got scared quite a bit playing this game. And like, I also think that, like, after the whole situation with the Gumbo Fu and Lewis, and how you can basically like get a game over by telling
You
Lewis
read
the
a
wrong thing
book.
in regards to Gumbo Fu, he scared me so much after that point in the game. I like tried to
Yeah.
avoid him as much as possible.
And the thing in the like going in the tunnels, and if you don't have a light, you instantly die. Like that whole like secret passage thing where you find, oh, somebody has been living here.
Yeah.
That is a personal fear of mine. And so that was very spooky for me. Of course, it's just Charlie living there, so but like still, it's scary. So that one for me is gonna go in the top tier for spookiness.
Okay.
Um, but then there is also the seance part, and my
The
favorite part
seance
of the
is campy
seance
though.
is my wife. Where could she be? Where is my wife? And I love it so much.
The spirits have spoken. The seance
Yes.
is over.
I love that scene so much. All right, the next one we have is the Shattered Medallion, and I've played this game a few times, and I still do not know anything that goes on in this game.
It is the most confusing game, plot wise.
Like, I have no idea what's going on at any moment in this game, and I don't even know the plot. I don't know what the culprit is doing. I don't know why we were there. All I know is that Sunny June has a few funny lines, and you can play Raid.
I
And
also like Patrick. I
yeah.
think he's the best part of the Shattered
Oh yeah.
Medallion.
I love Patrick. Nothing he says makes sense, and I like it that way because it goes with the game, but it makes sense within the character instead of everything in the game not making sense.
But I don't think that
Oh,
this game is
that's
spooky
music.
ever.
But it's not, yeah, it's not even a little bit spooky for me. Like, even like when you're underwater, like that's not spooky. So that one is, where is the spooky?
Yeah,
Right, and the
where's the
next
spooky
one
for me
we
too?
got is Alibi and Ashes. And this one, I don't think it's spooky at all.
I
I think
don't
it's got
either.
some scary moments, like, you're in a burning building, and
Yeah.
then like there's like a race against time with this game. There's also, the tunnels at the end, but like I don't see anything like spooky about it. I just see
Yeah.
like, oh, this is kind of freaky.
I fully agree. I would
So
put this in scary but not spooky. There are, like you said, kind of like high tension moments, which I would consider like scary. They do put a little bit of pressure on you, but again, not really spooky.
all right, and the next one we have is Danger on Deception Island. And I don't know if this is going to be an unpopular opinion or not, but I don't think it's spooky. Like, even if we have the secret passages and stuff, like, I don't think those are spooky. I think there's, like, the whole historical context behind them, but other than that, we don't really have anything spooky. But we do have some scary stuff, for sure.
I do find the tunnels kind of spooky, like with the cairns, especially because they're connected to businesses around town.
Another cairn.
And so I
That's
think that,
another cairn. Sorry.
no, it's fine.
That's what Nancy says every time she sees one.
Another cairn. Um,
Yeah.
and I do think that the lighthouse is spooky. Um, so if it,
Yeah, I think it's a little spooky. Yeah.
so I would,
I'll
my vote would be to
yeah.
put it in a little spooky.
Yeah. I can agree with that. Okay, and the next one is Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. And
Okay.
this one,
I think this one is one of those games where it kind of sets the bar in the beginning, and then it like a spooky bar, and then it does a pretty good job of maintaining that and giving sort of like a spooky tension throughout the rest of the game. And I also like that in Ghost Dogs Moon Lake you can venture around outside at night. There are not many games where you can walk around outside at night. There's only a few. So I do like that. And as a kid, I was always under the impression that like if I was out after dark, that like I could run into the ghost dogs, and that was really spooky for me. And I remember like the first time I played Ghost Dogs, and like the very first scene at the beginning, like obviously looking back, like the graphics are not great, but I was just like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, and
Yeah.
I've only been playing this for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Plus,
For
I think
me,
that like
mhm.
like once you find your way to like underneath the graveyard into the speakeasy tunnels, those are really really spooky too. My personal opinion would be to put this in Gave Me Such a Fright, because I don't think it's like terribly scary, but I do think it's like consistently spooky, and also the vibes are just very
Yeah.
Halloweeny time in my opinion.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was just gonna say that this game, like as you said, it sets a really high bar for spookiness, but for me, this like the spookiness and the scariness kind of like goes down. Like it still has a consistent tone of spooky throughout the game, but like that one first scene was like really, 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 really spooky and scary, and then for the rest of it, it's like just a regular spooky kind of vibe until the end, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But like it, I wanted to see more of like hearing a bunch of howling outside and then Nancy being like, "Oh no, I should get back in the house before the ghost dogs are out," because that would have been like super spooky and scary and stuff. But that never happened,
I
and
do also want to
instead,
point out
all
that
we
you
got
get
was
knocked
Red
out and
Dot.
thrown into a burning shed.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's necessarily spooky though, but I'll definitely put this in Gave Me Such a Fright.
You sure? If you don't agree, we
Yeah.
can talk about it more.
No, it's definitely spooky. It's
Okay.
definitely spooky and scary, but like it could have been scared for my life, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
All right, the next one. Now I know where I'm putting this one. And I think I know where you're gonna put this one too. But Ghost of Thornton Hall. Where else would we put it but
Scared for
Scared
my
for My
life.
Life? Like um, yeah, this one traumatized me as a kid, but I also have a really funny story about it. So I couldn't afford to buy it for my computer as a kid, and so I would get it on my Amazon Kindle Fire, and I would and since it was $5 to actually have to pay for the whole game, I would just play it in under 1 hour, and so I had all these notes that I'd taken from the game, and I could get up to the safe at the end, and then it would like lock me out and say I'd have to pay the $5 to
Ghost of
get the
Thornton
whole
Hall
game.
mobile speedrunner Ray.
I was so proud of that stuff. In under an hour, I'd have to skip all of the dialogue. But I will say, once I got the full game and I was actually able to appreciate the whole thing, this game is so spooky. Like, it is one of the spookiest, if not the spookiest, in the whole series. Like we've got this ghost, we've got the music, we've got the mansion with the like cobwebs and spiders, and we've got good old Mr. Skinbag. I love Mr. Skinbag. If y'all don't know who Mr. Skinbag is, you know the little naked mole rat thing that crawls along the floor of that one room in the house? Yeah, that's
Where
Mr.
did it even
Skinbag.
come from?
I don't know, but I love him. He is a quality lad, and I will keep reminding everybody about that because I love him.
I also
But
think
yes.
another really spooky thing about Ghost of Thornton Hall is that as you play through the game and you start to realize the history behind
Oh
the
God.
family, it adds to like the spookiness, the tension, the sense of urgency, but also like you understand the like desperation and like
Hmm.
grief that's like surrounding all of these people, and it gives
And
such a sense of unease to the story as a whole. This game, while it is very very scary, and like I fully agree that it should go in Scared for My Life, I think that it deserves that spot, not just for the fact that like, oh, there's a ghost spook that you see a few times and like there's a couple jump scares. I think this game is so much deeper than just those moments, and all of that adds to the spookiness of the game.
yeah, it is. It's so good. And when we have an episode of this, we're gonna have a lot to talk about because
Mhm.
this game is just—it's so sad, it's so depressing, it's so like, oh my gosh, this is a terrible family, and I can see why this place if I believed in ghosts, would definitely be haunted. Like it is super scary and sad and stuff, but it's such a good game. But where else would it go on the tier list if not for Scared for My Life?
I agree.
Like, and even like the music is spooky and
There is
everything. It's
no
just
happy
so
track.
there is nothing happy about this game. Like you were just stuck in this one place. I mean, there is the conversations with Bess and Ned, which are really fun, and I
And I
love
think
Bess and Ned
necessary
so
to
much.
have that levity because the game is
Mhm.
so heavy and dark.
Yeah. And then you get like certain conversations with like Savannah and Wade and Harper that can also be kind of humorous and stuff. But there's always the whole thing like, Savannah's a ghost hunter. Spookiness is part of her job. Wade is also a ghost hunter, so spookiness is part of his job. And then Harper is just like she knows everybody thinks she's crazy, and so she's gonna run with that. And like she's also, spoilers for the game, but she's also dressing up as Clara and turning to scare no, she's dressing up as Charlotte and turning to scare Clara and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And like that in itself is a spooky thing, dressing up as a ghost and walking around a house. Like that's fun. Um or like the whole like singing that you hear and the song is just it's so spooky. And then on top of that, you do have like the insanely dark history of all like the deaths and destruction that the Thorntons have caused over the years. And like the grave of the 40, was it the 49 or something? Like or the
Yeah.
42 or something? It's something in the 40 number-ish bracket, but like they don't even have like names. They're just like all these people who have died here, all these ghosts and stuff. And it's just like that. This place is like ultimate spookies. Like, can't get spookier than that. All right. So, after my whole thing about Ghost of Thornton Hall, our next one is The Labyrinth of Lies. And
Okay.
this one, I would not say it is spooky.
I would agree.
Um,
So I am one of
Scary
those
for
unpopular
sure.
opinion people in the community where I
Mm-hmm.
adore Labyrinth of Lies. It's in my top 5, but it's not spooky. There are
Yeah.
scary moments, and I love that. I love Labyrinth of Lies for the characters, for the atmosphere, and for the puzzles. I think they have some of the most clever puzzles in the whole series, but I don't think it's a spooky game, um, or
Definitely
anything like
scary though.
that.
One of the scariest moments in the series for me, in more of like in like a non-spooky way, is when Frank and Joe are telling Nancy about how Thanos is a murderer and has connections with the mob and stuff. And
Hmm.
they're like, hey Nancy, just talk to us as if we're saying this. Because people could be listening to you. And
Yeah.
you are not safe here at all. And so she's saying things like, oh yeah, I'll get him this for his birthday or something. And Frank and Joe are just telling her like all this serious stuff. And that part for me just felt really scary to me.
It was
So it's
scary.
like
So,
Nancy
yeah.
is completely alone here. Like, since spoilers, everybody is involved with the crime ring. She is completely alone. She has nobody to turn to because like Grigor even tries to help Nancy, but he ends up in jail, and Niobe can't really do anything because she's too scared of Thanos because this giant man who is low key, actually no, high key a murderer. So it's like yeah, this game is scary, like for real scary, but spooky. No, even
Yeah.
with like the whole set of the underworld, like I wouldn't say it's spooky because
Yeah,
it's more
because
like
you have
a,
the knowledge that it's a set,
yeah.
so it kind of like kills any potential
So
spookiness
I
it could
definitely
have.
say, but not spooky.
Yeah.
All right, next one we have is Ransom of the Seven Ships. Uh, this game. I'm just gonna say, where is the spooky?
Yeah, the only
Like,
spooky thing I
it's
can really think is like at the very, very, very end, like making
yeah.
it into El Toro's room or whatever.
But then the hourglass puzzle, like that thing, completely just ruins anything for me in the game, and also the the racial insensitivity. But
There's just the thing about Ransom of the
uh,
Seven Ships for me is that there is so much in the regards of like negatives of this game, that like any positives that the game has are just completely overshadowed.
Yeah.
So,
Like it had so much potential. Like we could have had like a really fun like pirate game
mhm.
where where you have like characters on this island that you can talk to about stuff, and but instead we got one culprit,
Yeah.
one suspect.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, the only person who is a suspect is the culprit?
No
Oh my gosh.
way.
Yeah, but it's like it's not spooky at all. And
No.
like it has a few scary moments, but I think the calypso drums kind of the reggae kind of music kind of makes it not as scary, you
Right.
know?
Yeah, and a lot of
So
the music, like I think a lot of the music is very good. It is one of the positives of this game, but again, it's just so overshadowed by
so this one
all
is
of
going
the
in. Where's the spooky?
yeah, just no spooky.
All right. And the next one is Sea of Darkness. Wow, we had a really bad game and now we have a really good game, but
Yeah,
is it
really good
spooky?
game.
Mm, I'd
I
say
don't know if I would say it's spooky. Now, I feel like it has the framework to be spooky. Like, it's
mhm.
dark for most of the game. There's like a big like wooden ship, and there's a lot of history like behind all of this. But at the same time, it's not really spooky. I think this game honestly gives more like sad vibes than
Oh
spooky
yeah.
vibes.
But there is this one really kind of spooky thing is that like if you go into the caves and you hang out in the ice caves for a long time, you can hear someone crying out. And
Really?
yes, you have to be in there for like a long time and be actually paying attention, but it's
I
like,
didn't know
oh,
this.
yeah, I don't know if it was like intentional or something, but I heard a few years ago
I
and I was
guess the
like,
assumption is that that's Magnus.
yes, because he's
Oh,
like, locked, captured and trapped in the ice tunnels by a certain
crazy.
culprit.
No way.
But yeah, I'd recommend going into that. But it's like, as a whole, the game is not spooky. It is beautiful. It has amazing puzzles. It has a good plot and everything, and it is scary because, like, you're investigating a kidnapping and
Yeah.
stuff, and you don't know who to trust and everything. But I wouldn't say
Yeah.
it's spooky.
Yeah,
So
I'd say
maybe
scary but not
scary,
spooky.
yeah, because that one it's a good one. But
It's a great
is it
game.
spooky?
Fantastic game.
No. All right, the next one I know where I'm gonna put this one. Shadow at the Water's Edge.
Scared
This
for my
one
life.
is, yes,
Scared for
another
my
peak spooky,
life.
scared for my life. Because this one, like, I'll say, I think it's on par with Ghost of Thornton Hall for being peak spooky and scary, but for different reasons. Because, like, in Thornton Hall, you have nowhere to run. You are constantly in this deep, dark, depressing, spooky, scary place. But in Shadow at the Water's Edge, you have this one place where people are like, no, no, it's not spooky, I promise. And then you're like, I just got attempted murdered. Uh, and then you think that you're safe in the city area, and you're like, oh yeah, this is completely safe. I'm fine here. I'm in Yumi's apartment. Nothing wrong can happen. And then you have the ghost writing on the window, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, the ghost is following me. That for me is so good. And then like you have the whole concept of like the Yurei there, and then there's the whole like the very subtle hauntings that you can see, like there's the whole mirror scene. The mirror scene traumatized me as a kid.
Yeah, so
I That scene freaked me out so much as a child. It was just,
I
and
have
then
a
like you
story
have
about
like,
that
oh
moment.
yes, tell me.
So the first time, so like I've mentioned in the past, when I was growing up with the games, when the games would release, the typical tradition was that me, my mom, and my younger sister, we would sit down together and we would play them together, like in the evenings after we'd done, school was done, work was done, and like we'd had dinner, and like this was the thing we would do until bed. And I remember when we were playing Shadow at the Water's Edge, I was clicking and the mirror scene happened and I got so frightened. I clamped my ears over my or my hands over my ears, and I shrieked at the top of my lungs, and I pushed myself back in the computer chair, and my mom was like, "Stop screaming, stop, it's okay, stop." And then I like calmed down, and like nobody had moved, like we were just Nancy just
Yeah.
staring into the
Yeah.
broken mirror. And I turned to my mom and I was like, you have to click now. I was too scared to like click anymore.
Yeah. This game, like that, the mirror scene alone is so horrifying because like you're not expecting to have a cutscene right there, but when you know the cutscene, when the screen starts moving on its own without you clicking, like you know something's about to go down,
Yep.
but you just don't know what. And then you see this hunched over corpse like ghost figure in the mirror behind you, and you can even see yourself in the mirror, which is not a an odd thing in the Nancy Drew games because Nancy is a vampire most likely. Um, but you see this figure, and then it comes like running towards you in a ghostly manner, just like hunched over, and then breaks the mirror, and that is traumatizing. And then there's the whole like wet footprints in your bedroom. That is so freaky to me.
And like
Like,
the puzzle where you're
ah,
like trapped in the one room,
do
and
not get me started on that puzzle.
you have to do
I
like the like you have to make like the mirror image of the color
oh,
like
I
tiles, and there's like
that
breathing and like drippy
yes,
noises, and
that for me is the scariest moment in any of the games because it
terrifying.
feels like it actively feels like somebody is trying to kill you in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to escape. Everything is closing on you. There's the breathing down your shoulder. There's the dripping. There's the banging on everything, and it just keeps
Mm-hmm.
getting like it feels like it keeps getting louder and louder and closer and closer. And like it's so freaky, and then once you get out, like you think you're better again, but then you're like, I don't know what's going on. And then the sound design for this game alone is so scary and spooky and
Yeah.
so so well done. Like even if we don't have as many spooks in this game as you have in like Ghost of Thornton Hall or like Message in a Haunted Mansion, the
Or even
sound
Blackmore
design of
Manor,
this
yeah.
game, yeah, the sound design in this game on its own is so terrifying.
But there
Like
are a
just
lot of
listen,
like
yeah,
really small spooks too, like Nancy's name changing that you do in the calligraphy lessons. Like you write your name in the calligraphy lessons, and then at one point
yeah,
you go into your room and it's turned red, which is like a bad
mhm,
omen. Or like your room is room number 24, and then at some point the 2 disappears, making your room being numbered number 4, which is like an
mhm,
unlucky number in Japanese culture. So like there's a lot of really small things that happen in this game that kind of just add to
yeah.
the spook. Plus, the hidden bath is spooky enough, I think, to
That
put this at the top of the
that
list.
place gave me nightmares as a kid. I got so scared of going in there. And then, like, I was so proud of myself for solving that monster nonogram at the end. I was so happy. I was like, yes, I'm so good at this puzzle now that I finally solved it with the help of a walkthrough. I didn't actually do anything as a kid, but I solved it. I was so happy about it. I was like, oh, cool sword. Oh, this letter is really, really sad. You turn around, the ghost is attacking you, and that
Mhm.
freaked me out so much. And then you're in the water, and it's like on top of you, and you have to escape, and you're drowning, and and
And you're
see, like
using
this game,
Kasumi's sword to like slice through the
yeah,
rope that's
it's
over
oh
you,
my
which is
god,
so freaky. And then
ah,
and you know what I thought in that moment? I thought to myself, this is a crazy way to connect the fact that this is the bath that Kasumi died in, and now
yeah,
here is Nancy
oh,
drowning in the same bath.
it is, it is so scary,
But also
and
brilliant.
like
This game is brilliant.
it's so this game is so amazing, and the more the more you play it, the more you look at it, the more you're like, oh my gosh, this game is so good. It's so scary. It's so amazing. Oh, and another little spook that I love in it is that when you're in the gardens, there's a certain place where you can look at the water, and every once in a while, when you look at the water, you can see the reflection of Kasumi.
Really?
Yeah,
I never noticed
and
that.
Yeah, it's not like the Yurei, it's the portrait of her. Like you can see that portrait of her that you know, and
Oh,
that reflection is in the water. And
whoa.
it's so good.
What a great
And
touch.
this game is just so good. And the sound design, like even just like the spookiness of the place where it's like it's a still calm, but like you still feel like you're being watched.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I like
Wow.
the two tracks that stick out for me the most with spookiness are the track Kasumi, which
Mm-hmm.
has, it has the traditional Japanese instruments playing this beautiful tune, and then it slowly and steadily gets off key.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ends with this just so, so
It's
good and
very
spooky and
dissonant.
terrifying.
It's very nice. Like
And then
nice not in
there's,
like a pleasing way, but like nice in like a storytelling way.
yes, and then there's the track Pulse, which I will tell you right now, do not listen to it unless you want to feel like somebody is going to kill you. Yeah. That one is just terror as a Nancy Drew video game soundtrack.
That is
So
not
good.
that's not the track to play when you are getting ready for work in the morning and you're still half asleep.
Nope,
Don't
nope,
do it.
nope, 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 nope. But yeah, that game for me is just is there's a reason that it is one of my favorites. Also, we have Yumi. But even Yumi sometimes adds to the spookiness, where she's like, Nancy, do not go into this, please. I'm begging you. Do not ask about this. Do not look at this thing. And I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna look at it, but I'm kind of scared now.
Yeah. Man,
Like,
our
it's just,
Shadow at the Water's Edge episode is going to be really fun.
it is gonna be so long, and it's just gonna be us
It's
being
going to be
like, oh my
it'll be
gosh,
a
this game
4-hour
is so
episode.
good. Two-parter, our first
Yeah.
two-parter. All right, so the next one on our list is Stay Tuned for Danger.
Hmm.
I don't think it's really spooky.
I would say it's scary but not spooky. There are
Oh yeah,
definitely some scary
especially
moments.
yeah, especially at the end where Mr. Dwayne Powers is coming at you and he's like, "It's curtains for you, Nancy Drew."
Yeah.
But then Ralph Gardino comes in and tackles him.
And I mean, that's very
Uh,
that Ralph
it's a
Gardino
fun
is
game.
MVP of that game, but
He is
um
for real.
also things like the bomb in Rick's dressing room, like that's
Yeah,
scary
like
but not
it's scary, but it's
entirely
not
spooky.
spooky. Yeah, so I put this one in scary but not spooky.
Okay.
All right, the next one is the Captive Curse. Um, this one for me, I like as a kid, this one scared me. The forest by itself
Mhm.
is scary enough because like it feels like you're walking in circles and that you can't get out, and you know the monster's there because this is one of the monster sighting spots,
Yeah.
and like the whole like the monster is inside the castle part also really freaked me out as a kid. So for me, I would put in scared for my life, but I want to see where you would put it.
I am between scared for my life and gave me such a fright, but I think I'm okay putting it in scared for my life because one of the only other times I ever actually screamed out loud was when you are like following the monster outside in the courtyard and the
Oh
gate
yeah, yeah,
closes on
yeah.
you and then the monster like
Oh
comes
yeah.
up to the gate and I
And
did
you're like,
like
oh.
scream.
Like it's like you're obviously safe because the gate's there, and so it can't get through the gate. But
Right.
also, oh my god.
Yeah, so I'm
So that
okay
one,
putting it in
yeah,
scared for my life.
it is a scary one. It is a spooky, spooky, scary one. All right, the
Mhm.
next one is the Deadly Device. Um, not spooky for
Not
me.
spooky but definitely scary.
For
Um
sure, scary.
I think that the lab is a really scary, intimidating locale. Um, and I think that like a lot of the characters kind of add to the weight of like how dangerous like the lab can be. So I think that
Yeah,
the deadly device is scary, but I wouldn't exactly call it spooky. Yeah.
yeah, that one. Like this, just the whole thing of like there's a murder going on, and then like at the end there's a snowstorm, so you're locked inside, and one of these people is the murderer. It's just it's very like it's scary but
Hmm.
spooky, not really. All right, so the next one is the final scene. I think this one's a little spooky.
I think the final scene is a little spooky. There are some things that I think um are not super spooky, but I do think that
Mm-hmm.
some things would qualify as spooky. I think that like the hidden passageways are spooky. I think that the like distorted phone calls you get in the very beginning are spooky.
Oh yeah, and the magician's room under the stage.
That's
That one's a
spooky.
little bit spooky because it's like, oh my gosh, Maya was here. Oh my gosh, Maya
Also,
was here.
the I guess it's like the basement or whatever where like the amazing Monty is.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah,
spooky
that
down
one.
there. Um,
Amazing Monty, just in general, traumatized me as a kid because, like, what is he? I, this abomination.
he's
I
scary.
just, yeah.
So
So
yeah,
this one
I would say a little spooky.
is
Um,
spooky.
I think the
Yeah, is
music
it?
also is kind of spooky at times. There are some really spooky tracks.
Yeah, that's a good one. Next one is the haunted carousel. Um, for being a haunted carousel, there's not a lot of hauntings.
I would still say a little spooky. The
Yeah,
haunted house
it's got a
really scared
haunted
me as a young
thing. Yeah,
kid.
like
Also,
it could
so
have been
did,
way spookier.
yeah, so did Joy's office, actually. I always felt really uneasy in Joy's office as a kid.
Maybe that's why she's so anxious all the time
Maybe
because
she
her
needs a
office
good
is
window in
secretly
there.
haunted. Oh, she for sure needs a window, or at least like something, better decorations or something. Like that place is like, girl, we can tell you're depressed just by looking at your office.
Plus, I think the creepy, sad clown music that permeates this soundtrack is maybe one of the spookiest things.
Well, see, I cannot say good things about the music because it all just gave me a headache when I was a kid, and so I just would turn it down a lot.
I don't, I'm
So
not saying that
yeah.
I necessarily like it. I'm just saying I think it's spooky. I actually think that the
It's
haunted
definitely a little
carousel,
spooky.
and I know we love Kevin Manthe. We've made this very, very
Hmm.
clear. But I think that the haunted carousel is his weakest game soundtrack.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so the next one is The Haunting of Castle Malloy. This one has to be and at least gave me such a
Yeah,
fright.
I would
Like,
say there is like two really good jump scares in the game,
hmm
but I think it's a very consistently spooky
yeah,
vibe. I
it's
would put it in gave me such a fright.
yeah, for
Um
sure.
I think there
Like
are
it
some
has to be at
parts,
least there.
yeah, there are some parts that I think help balance the spooky, like the tavern or the pub, is not that spooky, and like the room that Kyler sits in is not that spooky. But like the nursery is really spooky. The
Okay,
grounds are
I
really
might have to.
spooky.
I'm gonna have to put it in Scared for My Life because I'm thinking, oh yeah, the nursery. Oh yeah, the nursery.
Yeah.
And then there's like
Do you want
the
to move it
castle,
up?
like yes,
Okay, move it
like,
up
and
to
then there's
Scared
the
for My
bog,
Life then.
the bog hut.
I
That place, I was like,
yeah.
somebody is going to walk in on me. Somebody's going to walk in on me when I'm in here and freak me out. And lo and
Guess what
behold,
happens?
that happens, and I was traumatized. I think I like actually screamed when I saw Fiona like right behind me. Like, I feel like she even like probably like tapped Nancy's shoulder or something. And if that happened to me, I would have been screaming and running around, like trying to get out of there as quickly as possible. And Nancy was just like, "Oh hi, you must be Fiona," and I'm just like, "Nancy, what are you doing? Run!"
So I'm okay. I'm okay keeping it in Scared for My Life. I'm fine compromising.
Yeah.
The one thing that kills some of the spooky for me though is the jetpack is so campy.
Okay. My this game, I think it's one of the best games? No, I do not. But is it absolutely so camp? Yes. This game is so
You
much
are
fun. It is
flying on a
bonkers.
jetpack.
It is
So
bonkers. It is crazy.
so just
Um,
let the record state that I am
yeah,
on the gave me such a fright side of Scared for My Life, but I'm
yeah.
okay putting it in Scared for My Life.
It okay, I'm just gonna move it down to it gave me such a fright because some of the parts are really funny, but like it is definitely spooky for sure.
It might be like
Like,
between the two then.
mm,
Between Scared for My Life and Gave Me Such a Fright. It's like hovering
oh,
between the two.
yeah, it is. I might add in another thing just for Haunting Malloy. Haunting
Okay.
Malloy, the Haunting of Castle Malloy. Okay, hold up. Okay, add row Malloy below. There we go.
Malloy. Hoy Malloy.
Um, Haunting of Castle Malloy.
So it gets its own
That one
tea.
just goes there.
I love it.
It's
Change the
camp.
color though, because now we have two yellow ones and it's
It's
bothering me.
okay. We're gonna make this one
Gray.
gray
That's
for
good.
Fiona's hair. Or her dress is more gray. Her hair is more white.
That's fair.
But like, yeah, it works. It works. All right. Secret of Shadow Ranch. This one's at least a little spooky. Maybe gave me such a fright.
I would say Gave Me Such a Fright. I think that
Yeah.
it is,
Dry Creek.
yeah, it's a pretty balanced game, but I think that the frights are pretty frightening. I mean, Dry Creek alone is so spooky and unsettling. And the
Mm-hmm.
cave dwellings are really unsettling. I think that what was I trying to say? Um,
The ghosties.
yeah, like the ghost horses, like the ghost horse issues are pretty scary, and like the fact that like everybody that's familiar and helpful to you is gone throughout the entire mystery, I think
Oh
kind of
yeah.
adds to the spook. Um, so
Yeah, like
yeah, I,
Dry
I
Creek
think I think Shadow Ranch is pretty
especially.
spooky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah, I
trying to think
think
if there's anything that kind of kills the spook.
the banjo.
Chores, yodeling.
Yeah.
But other than that,
The lamb ragu.
I mean, I'll do the whole thing again if you want.
We already have it once the podcast, but we can make a separate recording if you guys want to hear that.
Yeah, I'll
Just
just
have it
record
like
it and as a
yeah.
sound bite that we just throw in wherever.
All
Yeah,
right, so
yeah, I'm
we've
happy
got
with
that one
Gave Me
there.
Such a Fright.
All right, the next one is The Silent Spy. This one is not spooky.
Yeah, scary but not spooky. I would say it's scary but
Just-
not spooky.
I have no other thoughts. Scary but not spooky. We've got a lot of fun scary moments, like the whole Moira's like, Nancy, hide now. And if you
Yeah.
don't hide in like 10 seconds, they break in and they're like, oh, it's you, you're here, and then you're dead, you die.
Yeah, it's
But
very high stakes and like
it's not
pressure in that
spooky.
way, but not like in any sort of like dark or
Yeah.
supernatural vibe.
All right, so the next one is White Wolf of Icicle Creek. Um,
Mm,
because like we do have the tunnels and stuff.
I don't
But,
even
like,
really think the tunnels are that spooky.
yeah, yeah, I don't think they're even like a little bit spooky, but they're I think it's a little bit scary at times because like
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's not even that scary. Oh, there is this one thing that does freak me out,
Hmm.
which is every once in a while when you're in the lodge, you'll hear footsteps coming towards you.
Oh.
And that, like, I've only gotten it a few times, but every time that happens, I freak out and, like, I click around, like, trying to find who's following me, but there's nobody there, obviously. But,
I've never experienced that.
oh, yeah, it's a
I
fun one.
I'm okay putting it in scary but not spooky or even where is the spooky.
Yeah, I think I'll put it in Where is the Spooky, because it's,
Okay.
like, it's a very rare scary thing, but, like, it's not really, it's more, like, suspenseful, but not scary.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I mean, this is a game where you pelt a young child in the face with snowballs for a toasty pack. That's not spooky.
Freddie, though, I love her. She's such a 10-year-old girl. Um,
Yeah.
And there's another one of my favorite parts that kind of takes away the spooky part is the whole Yanni's like, my grandmother was eaten by wolves or something like that.
Yeah.
That part always... And then Nancy's like, how? Like, Nancy. Oh my gosh. I love her and her insensitive questions. Alright, so the next one on our list is Tomb of the Lost Queen. I think this one's a little spooky.
I think Tomb of the Lost Queen is a little spooky as well. I think just the tomb in general is spooky. Plus, I think every single character is a little ominous.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
and so, like, the lack of trust from any direction, I think, kind of adds to the spooky. The
Mhm.
music is really spooky. The rooms themselves are really spooky. I mean, you literally are dealing with, like, a mummy. That's pretty spooky. And, like, tombs in general. Yeah, I'm good with it in a little spooky.
Every time there's a lot of dead people involved, or a very significant, we're looking for this dead person, that's gonna be a little bit spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. And if you grew up watching The Mummy, some of the stuff where it's like, oh, there's a scarab, that can instill a little bit more fear in you. Shout out to The Mummy, great film, very fun. Next
Good
one on our
movie.
list is Nancy Your Dossier, Resorting to Danger. I
I'm
just have one
gonna.
thing. Where is the spooky?
Yeah, I'm gonna say where is the spooky? Even
This
the
is,
high pressure moments don't really feel awful.
yeah, it feels suspenseful at times, but it's never really like scary. It just
Yeah.
feels suspenseful and stuff. So I put it in where is the spooky? Like I
Yeah.
don't see the spooky. Yeah, but it's a fun one. It's probably my personal favorite out of the whole two Dossier games.
I think
The
I like the story
the
better
mini
in
games
Lights
go
Camera Curses,
hard.
but I think the gameplay is much better in Resorting for
Mhm.
Danger.
The mini games in that game go hard. Okay, the mini
Those are fun.
games, those are super fun. But the game as a whole, scary, no. But the vibes are fun though. Um, and um last we have Midnight in Salem. Um,
Okay. Hmm.
okay, we're going on spookiness here. Okay,
Spookiness.
spookiness and
Okay.
scariness. Okay.
I'm gonna say
Off the chart
actually, I think
spookiness.
I'm actually gonna say gave me such a fright. And you want to know what part it was for me? You
The
know the part
nightmare.
where you're like laying in bed
Yep.
and there's
Yep.
like a creepy like pilgrim girl face or something
Yeah.
like coming from the ceiling at you, and it's like
Mhm.
writhing a little bit in what looks like
Yeah.
pain. And that truly freaked me out the first time I played
Mhm.
Midnight in Salem.
Oh yeah, I think it's very spooky. Like this game has such amazing Halloween vibes. It's so spooky. It's so great in that aspect. And I love the music. The music is giving like Danny Elfman soundtrack vibes, like something
Yes.
out of a Tim Burton movie, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so perfectly spooky. It's got that Edward Scissorhands vibe, that Nightmare Before Christmas kind of sound.
Not to
And like
mention the
it's just
fact that it takes
so
place
good.
in Salem in
In
fall, which
Salem.
is genuinely
And
like
you
such a
know,
perfect Halloween spooky vibe.
oh yeah, and then like I love inspecting the burning house like that as such spookiness. Then you have the tunnels but the most spooky part for me is like you have the museum of all the witch stuff, which is really cool and I like that. Um and then you have the cemetery. I love the cemetery. Um that is probably one of my favorite places in the game is the cemetery because it's like it's a cemetery. It's spooky. You have candles and jack-o'-lanterns and protesters.
You want to
Ah,
know what the scariest thing for me is in that whole game?
posing protester.
Why why are there protesters in a small town like this? Um no, the scariest part for me is walking around the town square and turning around and Deirdre is literally in your face.
She is like an evil pop-up book. I
So
kept
scary.
forgetting she was there the first time I would play, and I would like jump out of my seat every time I
Yeah.
saw Deirdre. I was like, "Oh my god, you were
I
here! I
I
forgot."
know I know that I will have a lot to say about Midnight in Salem in our
Oh,
Midnight in Salem episode whenever that
oh.
happens. So I will save a lot of my comments, but if we are judging based on spookiness and spookiness alone, my vote would be gave me such a fright.
Yeah, I think I'll put it there because like it is for sure spooky, but some of the stuff like the bad graphics and
Mhm.
um like certain
Lack
other
of
things in the
story
game.
and puzzles.
Yeah, that was the lack of puzzles. But like as a whole, it is certainly spooky. Like for sure, the vibes are there.
Definitely.
So that is
That's our
our
tier list.
tier list. All
We
right,
did it.
shall we read it off one
Okay,
rank at a time?
sure. Do you want to trade
Starting
off
with,
categories or
yeah,
trade off
I think we'll
tiers?
start at the bottom. Let's start at the bottom. So
Okay.
we have the bottom tier, which is the 6th tier, which is Where is the Spooky? We have here The Creature of Kapu Cave, The Trail of the Twister, The Shattered Medallion, Ransom of the Seven Ships, White Wolf of Icicle Creek, and Resorting to Danger.
Okay, and then the next tier up, we have scary but not spooky. We have the original Secrets Can Kill, the remastered Secrets Can Kill, Alibi and Ashes, Labyrinth of Lies, Sea of Darkness, Stay Tuned for Danger, The Deadly Device, and The Silent Spy.
Yeah. And next on the 4th tier, which is a little spooky, we have Secret of the Scarlet Hand, Secret of the Old Clock, Danger by Design, Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon, Lights, Camera, Curses, Danger on Deception Island, The Final Scene, The Haunted Carousel, and Tomb of the Lost Queen.
Okay, and then moving up, we have Gave Me Such a Fright, where we have The Phantom of Venice, Treasure in a Royal Tower, Warnings at Waverly Academy, Ghost Dogs in Moon Lake, The Secret of Shadow Ranch, and Midnight in Salem.
All right, and now we have the 2nd tier. This tier is named The Haunting of Castle Malloy, and the game in this one is The Haunting of Castle Malloy. It is in a tier of its own, baby.
Love it, love it. And then finally, the top tier, we have Scared for My Life, which includes The Curse of Blackmore Manor, Legend of the Crystal Skull, Message in a Haunted Mansion, Ghost of Thornton Hall, Shadow at the Water's Edge, and The Captive Curse.
All right, but before we finish the episode, we have to rank our followers on Instagram, their individual spooks they put in.
All right, I have those pulled up. Do we want to take turns reading them, or should I just read them out and we talk about them?
I have the screenshot here, so okay. I will name them on. Okay, so I'll save the one that got recommended the most for last.
Okay.
The first one, Ethel.
Yes.
Terrifying. That one is Scared for My Life. That one would go automatically in Scared for My Life. Yeah. That spook.
As an individual spook, Scared for My Life, yes.
If you have not been personally, like, raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by Ethel. What is her last name?
Bossany.
I just know Ethel Bossany. Like, raise your hand if you've been personally victimized by Ethel Bossany. Like, you would all raise your hands because she is terrifying. Like, she does nothing but just stand there and look at you and be like, oh, hello, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, it's also like, she definitely knows exactly what is happening, no matter what is going on. She's just so scary, and it's like, oh, she's dangerous. Alright, so, yeah, so that one was from Gooba and Jetpack. Shout out to them.
Shout out to them.
And then this next one is recommended by the Sleuthy Teacher. Shout out to the Sleuthy Teacher. This one is the cloaked figure walking down the hall in The Curse of Blackmore Manor and all of Ethel's jump scares too. Like that figure. That figure is also going to Scared for My Life.
Agree. Like
that,
I hated when you would go out in the hallway and it was like cackling, like laughing.
Yeah,
oh, that scared
and then
me
Nancy
so
follows it, and I'm like, Nancy, no, go back in your room.
Yeah,
don't chase it. Oh, girl. Like, I was just like, Nancy, do not chase it, and then she chases it.
Exactly.
And we have from Trashlyn_Marie, also Shorty at the end of Shadow Ranch because it feels like you're being hunted down.
Well, when he's like, I just went through another door, Nancy.
I'm coming, Nancy. There's just only one door left. Here it is. That for me is not spooky, but it is for sure scary.
Yeah, very scary. Scary, but not spooky for sure.
Yeah. We have from Colorable Art. There were some great ones in Thornton Hall too. That every spook in that game is going and scared for my life.
Yeah, also
Um,
big agree. Big
yeah.
agree.
We have
Oh, you want to
from
know
Doc.
what one of the
Huh?
spooks in Thornton Hall that I forgot to mention earlier, but I
Hmm.
think is so spooky,
Oh
is
yeah,
when
go
you
for it.
walk up to like the dried up fountain in the graveyard
And the
and the
head,
head
the head.
moves.
Oh! And then like you look away and you look back and it's just how it used to be before,
Yeah,
and it was just like, no, you moved. You
it's so
looked at me.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's so good. So the next one we have is from Doctor_What01. Um, Joseph in the final scene giving you the WD-40. Um, Not spooky to me, but scary.
I
Everything.
would say it did give me a fright, but not in a spooky
Oh
way.
yeah, yeah. Super scary. Everything in that game in the third act is definitely scary, but not for me spooky, but like for sure, like
Yeah.
I'm scared.
Also, why is it so zoomed in to Joseph's face?
Yeah.
Why?
And then we have 3 whole requests for this one, which is the shadow at the water's edge mirror scene. Scared for
Yeah.
my life.
Scared for my life.
Yeah.
We
Uh,
already know.
both of us had physical reactions of fear when we first saw that scene. So I think that one is going in scared for my life. Definitely, because I will never recover.
Yeah.
There is still this part of my childhood self deep within my soul that is like, hey, that part scared me too much as a kid, and now I am permanently traumatized. But it is such a good spook. It's so spooky, so scary.
Yeah. It's almost like a perfect spook.
It is so good. Just the way it's a whole cut scene, the way it's like you cannot escape this because you are in the room already. You can't see anything else but this ghost, and it happens so quick, and it disappears,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just like, what just happened? What just happened?
Yeah.
There's the only evidence of this happening is the broken mirror. It's so spooky and so good. It is so amazing. So yeah, I'd say these games have some pretty good spooks.
They have some
Like,
pretty good spooks. They're not all for the faint of heart.
oh no, definitely not the ones, definitely not the scared for my life tier. Like that one, that tier is like, if you get scared really easily during video games, maybe play this one in broad daylight, you know?
Yes. Yeah,
Don't do
play
what
this
I did.
one. Don't play this
Don't do
one
what
in
I
a
would.
1 a.m.
Yeah.
insomnia bout.
That was how I played Shadow of the Waters.
Gosh.
I was like 13. I was like 13 or 14, and I was playing. No, was I 13 or was I 14? I think I was 13. Oh, wait, was I? Yeah, I was 13 years old playing Shadow at the Water's Edge at like 1 a.m. because I had raging insomnia, and that didn't help.
Gosh, that sounds
Oh,
absolutely terrifying.
yeah, don't do that. But it was a great experience for like getting spooked. But being alone at 1 a.m. in my room, um, in the dark, not fun.
No, no way.
But if you want to play it immersive, like that is the way to do it. That one and all the other ones on that list are also great to play at night if you want to be super immersive. But yeah, that's a very fun list to rank. Like
Heck
these
yeah.
games, I like the spookies.
This was fun.
So,
This was a fun little Halloween special.
oh yeah, and it's I love the spookies. I could go on and on about the spookies for hours, but we do not have time for hours.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, then, thank you guys so much for joining us this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it and let us know on our social medias any thoughts that you may have or suggestions. We appreciate everybody who contributed to today's episode by answering our question on Instagram. So follow us there and watch us for any future questions, and we may feature your answers or other such things in future episodes. So other than that, we will see you in 2 weeks. Happy Halloween, everybody, and we will see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.